Welcome, tranquil listeners and dedicated students of poker, to another extended journey into the very fabric of strategic decision-making. As the world around you quiets, we continue our unhurried exploration of poker's mathematical core, building steadfastly upon the foundations we've gently laid. We've serenely navigated the waters of hand equity, understanding your probabilistic share of the pot, and we've calmly mastered pot odds, learning when to call for your draws. Tonight, we arrive at the profound culmination of these concepts, expected value, or EV. Expected value is, quite simply, the true measure of profit in poker. It is the mathematical heartbeat of every optimal decision. It transcends individual results, individual wins or losses, and instead focuses on the average outcome of a decision if it were to be repeated countless times. If you seek to play poker not merely to win occasionally, but to win consistently, predictably, and profitably over the long term, then understanding, calculating, and relentlessly pursuing positive EV is your ultimate strategic imperative. So relax, open your mind, and allow the serene logic of expected value to illuminate your path to consistent success. Let's begin, as always, with a calm and clear definition. Expected value, EV, is a mathematical concept used to quantify the average outcome of a decision or action if that decision were to be repeated an infinite number of times. In poker, EV represents the average amount of chips or money you can expect to win or lose per instance from a particular play. It is a probabilistic forecast of profitability. Think of it this way. A single poker hand is like a single flip of a coin. You might bet on heads and it comes up tails. You lose. But if you know that over thousands of flips, heads comes up 60% of the time, betting on heads is a positive EV decision, even if you lose the first flip. EV allows us to look beyond the immediate result of one hand and understand the underlying long-term profitability. Why is EV the true measure of profit in poker? Because poker is not a game where you win every hand. It is a game dominated by variance, the natural ups and downs of short-term results that can be frustrating, exhilarating, or confusing. EV cuts through this noise. It provides you with a robust, reliable compass that always points towards the most profitable path, regardless of whether a particular decision results in a win or loss in that single, isolated instance. A positive EV decision means that, on average, you will make money from that decision over time. A negative EV decision means that, on average, you will lose money from that decision over time. Your ultimate goal in poker is to consistently identify and execute positive EV plays while meticulously avoiding negative EV plays. This relentless pursuit is the essence of a winning strategy. The fundamental formula for calculating expected value is beautifully straightforward. EV equals probability of outcome 1 times value of outcome 1 plus probability of outcome 2 times value of outcome 2 plus ... probability of outcome n times value of outcome n. In poker, the outcomes are usually you win the pot, you lose the pot or your bet, Your opponent folds and you win the pot immediately. And the value of these outcomes is the amount of chips or money won or lost. Let's carefully construct a detailed example to bring this formula to life, connecting it directly to our prior understanding of hand equity and pot odds. Imagine a situation on the turn. The pot currently contains 100 chips. Your opponent bets 50 chips. You hold Ace of Hearts, King of Hearts, A Hearts, King Hearts. The board is 10 of Hearts, 7 of Hearts, 2 of Diamonds, 3 of Clubs. T Hearts, 7 Hearts, 2 Diamonds, 3 Clubs. You currently have a flush draw. You need one more heart. You don't have a made hand that beats anything but a bluff. Let's calmly analyze this situation step by step to calculate the EV of calling. Step 1. Identify your hand equity, outs, and probabilities. From our previous session, you know you have 9 outs to hit your flush. 13 hearts in total, minus 2 in your hand, minus 2 on the board, equals 9 remaining hearts. On the turn, with only one card, the river, left to come, there are 46 unknown cards, 52 total cards, minus 2 in your hand, minus 4 on the board, equals 46 unknown cards. So, your probability of hitting your flush on the river is 9 outs divided by 46 unknown cards, equals approximately 19.57%. This means your probability of not hitting your flush is 1 minus 0.1957, equals approximately 80.43%. Step 2. Determine the value of each outcome. Outcome A. You hit your flush. If you hit your flush, you win the entire pot. The pot before your call is 100, original pot, plus 50, opponent's bet, equals 150 chips. If you call 50 chips, the pot becomes 200 chips. You win these 200 chips. Value of outcome A equals plus 200 chips. Outcome B. You miss your flush. You lose the 50 chips you called. Value of outcome B equals minus 50 chips. Step 3. Apply the EV formula. EV of calling equals probability of hitting flush times value of winning plus probability of missing flush times value of losing. EV equals 0.1957 times plus 200 chips plus 0.8043 times minus 50 chips. EV equals 39.14 chips plus negative 40.215 chips. EV equals minus 1.075 chips. What does this result of minus 1.075 chips mean? It means that, on average, if you make this exact call 1,000 times, you would expect to lose approximately 1,075 chips. This is a negative EV decision. Based purely on hitting your flush and winning the current pot, calling in this specific scenario is not mathematically profitable. You should fold. Hold on, though. This basic calculation of EV, or sometimes called raw EV, is extremely useful, but it's often a simplification. In real poker, there's another crucial outcome. Your opponent folds. What if you decided to raise instead of just calling? Or even if you just call, what if you hit your flush and your opponent bets again and you extract more value? This brings us to the more complex but more realistic considerations. Let's expand our understanding of EV to include the powerful concept of fold equity. Imagine our same hand on the turn, but instead of just calling, you decide to semi-bluff shove all in for 100 chips. The pot is still 100. Your opponent bets 50, so the total pot is 150. You're shoving for 100 more chips. Your total bet is 100 chips on top of the current pot of 150. So you're risking 100 to win 150, if they fold. Now, we need to add a new probability, your opponent's fold frequency. Scenario: semi-bluffing all in on the turn. Pot is 100 chips. Opponent bets 50 chips. You shove all in for 100 chips, meaning your total investment, if they call, is 150 chips. But you're only adding 100 chips to the current pot of 150. So you're risking 100 to win 150. Now, we need to add a new probability, your opponent's fold frequency. Scenario: semi-bluffing all in on the turn. Pot is 100 chips. Opponent bets 50. You shove all in for 100 chips, meaning your total investment, if they call, is 150 chips. But you're only adding 100 chips to the current pot of 150. So you're risking 100 to win 150. Now, we need to add a new probability, your opponent's fold frequency. Step 1. Identify all possible outcomes and their probabilities. Outcome 1. Opponent folds. You win immediately. Probability is 60%, 0.60. Value: you win the current pot, 100 original plus 50 opponent's bet. You don't have to risk your full 100 chips because the hand ends. You win plus 150 chips. Outcome 2. Opponent calls and you hit your flush. You win at showdown. Probability of this specific sequence is opponent calls times you hit flush equals 0.40 times 0.1957 equals 7.83%. Value: you win the entire pot after your shove and their call. Current pot is 150. You shove 100. They call 100. Total pot is 150 plus 100 plus 100 equals 350 chips. Value of outcome 2 equals plus 350 chips. Outcome 3. Opponent calls and you miss your flush. You lose at showdown. Probability of this specific sequence is opponent calls times you miss flush equals 0.40 times 0.8043 equals 32.17%. Value: you lose the 100 chips you shoved. Value of outcome 3 equals minus 100 chips. Step 2. Apply the extended EV formula. EV equals probability of fold times value win by fold plus probability of call and hit times value win by hit plus probability of call and miss times value lose. EV equals 0.60 times plus 150 plus 0.0783 times plus 350 plus 0.3217 times minus 100. EV equals 90 chips plus 27.05 chips minus 32.17 chips. EV equals plus 85.235 chips. What a difference! By skillfully incorporating fold equity, our all-in semi-bluff has transformed from a potentially losing call into a highly positive EV decision of over 85 chips. This calm calculation reveals the true power of aggression in poker.
Even with a drawing hand, forcing your opponent to fold can be immensely profitable. This example highlights that EV calculations are not static. They are dynamic, adaptable, and must incorporate all possible outcomes, including the crucial likelihood of your opponent folding. Positive EV versus negative EV situations. This fundamental distinction is the guiding light of profitable poker. Positive EV situations, EV greater than 0. These are the plays you want to make repeatedly. They are expected to generate profit for you over the long run. If you find a decision that has a positive EV, you should execute it every single time it arises, without hesitation, regardless of whether you win or lose this particular instance. Trust the math. Examples: calling a bet with strong pot odds and high hand equity, for example, a flush draw versus a small bet. Betting for value with a strong hand when you expect opponents to call with weaker hands. Bluffing when you have high fold equity and your opponent's range is weak. Semi-bluffing with good equity and good fold equity, as in our example above. Negative EV situations, EV less than 0. These are the plays you must diligently avoid. They are expected to lose money for you over the long run. Even if you get lucky and win a negative EV hand sometimes, consciously choosing to make these plays is a losing strategy. Examples: calling a large bet with a weak hand and insufficient pot odds. Bluffing into multiple opponents who are unlikely to fold. Betting with a weak hand when your opponent clearly has a stronger hand and will only call. Chasing a very weak draw, for example, a backdoor straight draw with only 2.
Understanding variance, the short-term illusion. As we calmly discuss EV, it is absolutely crucial to address variance. Variance is the natural, inevitable, short-term fluctuations in your results that deviate from your true expected value. It's the reason why you might make a correct, positive EV play and still lose the hand. It's also why you might make an incorrect, negative EV play and still win the hand. The problem with variance: it can be emotionally taxing. A long string of bad beats, making positive EV plays and losing, can lead to tilt, emotional frustration that causes players to abandon strategy and play recklessly. Conversely, a winning streak from making negative EV plays can create a false sense of skill, leading to overconfidence and ultimately long-term losses. The EV solution. EV provides the antidote to variance. It teaches you to evaluate your decisions, not just your results. If you consistently make positive EV decisions, you are playing winning poker, even if variance momentarily disguises it. Your bankroll might go up and down dramatically in the short term, but over a vast number of hands, your results will converge towards your true EV. Managing variance. Bankroll management. Always play with money you can afford to lose, ensuring you have enough capital to withstand inevitable downswings. Emotional control. Detach from individual results. Focus on the quality of your decisions. Long-term perspective. Understand that poker is a marathon, not a sprint. Trust that the math will prevail over time. By embracing the wisdom of EV, you can calmly navigate the choppy waters of variance, maintaining perspective
and avoiding emotional reactions to short-term swings. Improving EV in everyday gameplay. A holistic approach. Consistently identifying and executing positive EV plays requires a blend of mathematical understanding, keen observation, and disciplined execution. It's a skill that is continuously refined. Let's explore several strategies to calmly and effectively improve your EV. 1. Master pot odds and hand equity, our previous sessions. These are the foundational components of EV. You cannot accurately calculate EV without a solid grasp of your hand's equity against an opponent's range and the immediate pot odds you're being offered. Consistently review and practice these concepts. 2. Focus on opponent range construction, continuous observation. This is arguably the most impactful skill for improving EV. The more accurately you can narrow down your opponent's possible hands, their range, based on their actions, position, and tendencies, the more precise your equity and EV calculations will be. Pre-flop, what hands does this opponent raise with from early position? What do they call with from the big blind? Post-flop, if they check-raise a paired board, what hands could they realistically have? Trips, full house, strong overpair, a bluff? What hands do they call with on the river? Every action your opponent takes is a clue. Collect these clues patiently and use them to construct a probabilistic range. 3. Leverage fold equity. Aggression as a tool. As our example demonstrated, the possibility of your opponent folding is an incredibly powerful component of positive EV. Don't simply wait to hit your hand. Actively use betting and raising to apply pressure. Bluffing. When your hand has little or no equity, but you believe your opponent's range is weak and they are likely to fold. This is a pure fold equity play. Semi-bluffing. When your hand has some equity, a draw, and you believe your opponent is likely to fold. This is a very strong play, combining both types of equity. Aggression is not just about having strong cards. It's about making strong, positive EV moves. 4. Refine your bet sizing, maximizing value, minimizing losses. The size of your bet profoundly impacts EV. Value betting, with a strong hand, your bet size should aim to extract the maximum possible chips from your opponent's calling range. If you bet too small, you leave money on the table. If you bet too large, you might scare away all but the strongest hands. Finding the optimal value bet size is crucial. Bluffing. Your bluff size needs to be large enough to induce folds, but not so large that it risks too much when called. The amount you risk impacts the required fold equity for your bluff to be profitable. Calling with draws. The size of your opponent's bet dictates your pot odds, which directly influences whether calling with a draw is positive EV.
5. Exploit positional advantage. Information is power. Playing hands from a late position, cutoff, button, is a massive EV booster. Why? More information. You get to see how more opponents act before you have to make a decision. This allows you to narrow their ranges more effectively. Control the pot. You can often control the size of the pot, allowing you to get better odds for draws or extract more value. Easier bluffs or semi-bluffs. It's easier to apply pressure with bluffs or semi-bluffs when you know everyone else has checked or shown weakness. Consistently play more hands from late position and fewer from early position to capitalize on this inherent EV advantage. 6. Practice self-analysis and hand review, learning from every hand. After every poker session, dedicate calm, focused time to review your hands. Identify mistakes. Where did you make a negative EV play? What did you miss about your opponent's range? Could you have extracted more value? Reinforce good decisions. Recognize when you made a strong, positive EV play, even if you lost the hand due to variance. This builds confidence and reinforces good habits. Use tools. Employ equity calculators and poker analysis software to meticulously break down complex hands. This continuous learning loop is absolutely vital for long-term improvement and maximizing your overall EV. 8. Recognize reverse implied odds, avoiding losing situations. This is the opposite of implied odds. Reverse implied odds occur when you expect to lose more money on later streets if you hit your draw, because even if you hit, your hand might not be the best or your opponent might have a stronger hand that will pay you off. Example: you have a low flush draw, for example, 2 hearts, 3 hearts, on a board of 7 hearts, 8 hearts, king spades. If you hit your flush, but your opponent has ace hearts, queen hearts, you will lose a lot of money because their flush is better. Or if you hit your low straight, but a higher straight is possible. When reverse implied odds are high, even a positive direct EV call might become negative in overall expected value. This teaches you to be cautious with marginal draws when facing strong players who can have higher versions of your draw. EV in different game formats. Chip EV versus dollar EV. A crucial distinction. As we broaden our understanding of EV, it's paramount to introduce a critical distinction that shapes strategy, particularly between cash games and tournaments. Chip EV versus dollar EV. 1. Chip EV. Definition: chip EV is the average number of chips a player can expect to win or lose from a particular decision. It's calculated directly in terms of chips. Application: chip EV is the dominant metric in cash games. Why in cash games? In a cash game, chips have a direct linear relationship to real money. If you have $100 in chips and you win 10 chips, you have $110. If you lose 10 chips, you have $90. Each chip has a fixed monetary value. Therefore, maximizing chip EV directly translates to maximizing your real money profit. All the EV calculations we've done so far are essentially chip EV calculations. Characteristics: cash games allow for rebuying, so losing your stack doesn't mean elimination from the game. This focus on maximizing chip EV encourages playing to win every chip possible, taking advantage of implied odds with deep stacks, and generally engaging in more speculative, high-variance plays if they are chip EV positive. 2. Dollar expected value, also known as dollar EV, or tournament EV, or ICM EV. Definition: dollar EV represents the monetary value associated with your chips in the context of a tournament's prize pool payout structure. It considers how winning or losing chips impacts your expected share of the total prize money. $EV is the crucial metric in tournaments. In tournaments, chips do not have a linear relationship to money. The first chip you win is often worth more than the last chip you win. Doubling your chip stack does not necessarily double your equity in the prize pool. Losing your stack means elimination. The payout structure, like the top 10% get paid, big jumps in prize money for top finishers, drastically alters the value of chips. For example, if you have 10% of the total chips in a tournament, you probably have less than 10% of the total prize pool equity because other players still have a chance to finish higher than you. If you double your stack from 10% to 20% of the chips, your prize pool equity might only go up by 5 to 7%, not 10%. This is because as you accumulate more chips, each additional chip is worth slightly less in terms of prize money, a concept known as diminishing returns. The impact on strategy, $EV, often leads to more conservative play in tournaments, particularly around the bubble, the point where players are about to enter the money, or at the final table where prize jumps are significant. You might make a decision that is positive chip EV, you win chips on average, but negative $EV, because the risk of elimination, even if small, outweighs the non-linear gain in prize money from winning chips. This can mean folding a marginally strong hand to survive or avoiding a small edge all-in play against a bigger stack. The independent chip model, or ICM, is the mathematical framework used to calculate $EV or prize pool equity based on chip stacks and payout structure. We will dedicate an entire future session to calmly unraveling the intricacies of ICM, as it is a game changer for tournament strategy. For tonight's calm and comprehensive session on expected value, our primary focus has been on chip EV, as it lays the fundamental mathematical groundwork. However, it was important to introduce the distinction with $EV to plant the seed for future, more advanced discussions, and to highlight that EV itself is a versatile concept. As we gently bring this extended and in-depth exploration of expected value to a close, allow its profound wisdom to settle deeply within your strategic mind. You now understand that poker is not a game of short-term luck, but a meticulous dance with probabilities and potential outcomes. Expected value is your conductor, orchestrating a symphony of decisions that over time will lead to undeniable, consistent profitability. You have learned to define and calculate EV for various poker decisions, distinguish between positive and negative EV plays, committing to the former and avoiding the latter. Understand the impact of variance and how EV provides the necessary long-term perspective. Implement strategies to improve your EV through opponent analysis, bet sizing, positional awareness, and continuous self-review. Recognize the crucial distinction between chip EV and dollar EV, setting the stage for advanced tournament play. This is a cornerstone of true poker mastery. By consistently making positive EV decisions, you are not just playing poker. You are engaged in a meticulously calculated, long-term endeavor to maximize your strategic edge and secure your financial success at the tables. Trust the math. In our forthcoming sessions, we will continue to build upon this robust foundation, calmly exploring the nuances of aggression, different board textures, tournament-specific strategies like ICM, and much, much more. For now, drift peacefully into a profound and restorative sleep, knowing that your poker mind is now powerfully equipped with the true measure of profit. May your dreams be filled with positive EV and your waking hours with consistently winning decisions.